Tonight, uncertainty in South Carolina. The sudden passing of Senator Lindsey Graham leaves open a seat he held for 23 years. Now, all eyes are on a special election 1 week away to determine which Republican will defend his seat. Russell Fry.
I know what it's like when every dollar matters because my family lived it.
Mark Lynch.
Well, I'm the only one that's not a career politician.
Ralph Norman.
We just have not been able to get anything passed. I want to change that.
Mark Sanford.
This is really about affordability for all of us as South Carolinians.
Who will emerge and distinguish themselves as South Carolina's next Republican nominee? Find out tonight as they make their case to win your vote. Live from the News 2 studios in Charleston and your local election headquarters, this is Debate Night in South Carolina.
We have 4 of the leading candidates here tonight. Senator Darlene Graham was unable to join us because of a potential Senate vote. Good evening from WCBD News 2 in Charleston. I'm Carolyn Murray.
And I'm Alicia Barnes from Queen City News in Charlotte, and we are your moderators tonight. This debate is being shown on Nexstar stations across the state of South Carolina, from here in Charleston to Charlotte, Spartanburg, Myrtle Beach, Augusta, and Savannah.
Here are tonight's rules. Each candidate will have 60 seconds to answer a question. Follow-ups are 30 seconds. We will allow up to 30 seconds for rebuttals. Candidates, when time is up, you will hear this bell. You will also be allowed 30 seconds for a closing statement.
And tonight's order was determined by a pre-debate draw. Now let's get right to debate night in South Carolina.
Candidates, your first question. This election is happening because of the passing of one of the most influential senators in South Carolina history, Lindsey Graham. And during his more than 30 years of public service, Lindsey Graham championed foreign policy. He shaped spending for national defense, and he pushed tax cuts. But you are not Lindsey Graham. Mr. Fry, what is the biggest policy difference between you and Lindsey Graham? You have 60 seconds.
Senator Graham was an outsized force in South Carolina politics. He served with distinction. I've worked with him on a number of things, including legislation, including resources back to the state of South Carolina. We talk about public safety. These are things I think that were a hallmark of who he was. So there was a lot that we worked on together, and he was, I think, for all of us in service, that was who he was. One area of distinction, though, is that foreign policy is important. It is an important issue as the United States leads the world in a lot of ways. But for me, I think it's really important to focus back home, to focus on your family. I understand the pinch that you feel at the gas pump. I understand how unattainable getting a house may seem, because I've lived that. And so for me, I think domestic policy is really where I want to have a stamp. Energy production, making gas more affordable, your home's heating and cooling less costly. That's my focus.
Mr. Norman, what is the biggest policy difference between you and Lindsey Graham? You have 60 seconds.
First of all, I went to Germany with Lindsey back in 2020, and foreign policy was that's what he focused on. I think the difference that I will bring is the fact foreign policy is important, but we've got America to look after. The debt that we have in this country is not sustainable. We can't have endless wars. I don't think the American people want it, and it's borrowed money that we don't have. So I would look at everything from where we spend our money. Any aid needs to be looked at as far as where it goes. I'm a budget hawk. I will look at the numbers very closely before we expend it. And we've got to have offsets for any spending that we do. I think the president's right in taking the tack that he has with Iran, but it's got a cost to it. So bottom line, make sure our money is going for where it should be going, and make sure we have offsets for any new spending. But it's peace through strength, which is the right course of action, and Lindsey promoted that.
Mr. Lynch, it is your opportunity to tell us your biggest policy difference between you and Lindsey Graham. You have 60 seconds.
Yes, thank you, Carolyn. I got in this race because I was asked to. I was called by God and the citizens of South Carolina for my leadership capabilities and being a successful businessman for 40 years, growing our business 35 times debt-free. So I know about budgets. I know how to do a zero-based budget, to look at each line item and make sure we're not paying for things we don't need to. Lindsey was head of the budget committee, and we've grown our debt to $39 trillion under his watch. You know, another big problem is foreign policy. My foreign policy is based on America First foreign policy. Lindsey's known, and one of his legacies, we have to be truthful, was for mass amnesty. We've got a major problem in this country with the amount of illegal and legal aliens that have come in here. It's about a third of our population now. Does everybody know that? So we'll be America first, and everything we do will come through the lens of biblical values and the Constitution to protect the country that we work for.
Mr. Sanford, please tell us your biggest policy difference between you and the late senator. You have 60 seconds.
Yeah, I just go back to a couple of fond remembrances that people have of Lindsey. We started in politics together. Our youngest boy was his godchild. I very fondly remember both him, his absolute focus on trying to make a difference in South Carolina, in being a great courier to Washington in terms of local interest. But as you've already picked up a current here, the distinction here would be, from my end, again, in watching out for people's pocketbooks and wallets here in South Carolina. That has been lost in D.C. And I think the real big distinction that we have to talk about is that while we all may be credentialed conservatives, I have a record of results during those 8 years as governor and during my time in Congress. For instance, during the time in the governorship, we held the line on government spending as no governor has before or since during those 8 years. And I think that that record of results, if you will, absolutely could make a difference in changing policy in D.C. and make a difference in people's lives here in South Carolina.
So, Mr. Sanford, just to clarify, what would you say is the biggest policy difference between you and the late senator?
What I just said, which is he was a little bit, again, a dear friend, and that's what I want to make clear, but had a little bit different view with regard to, in essence, how important it is to save $1 here in South Carolina as we think about sending it to D.C. People work awfully, awfully hard to earn the dollars they do, and we have this affordability crisis here in this country because we have a country right now wherein we go out and spend money we don't have at the federal government, then print money to cover that spending, which diminishes the value of every dollar we have and consequently hurts people here at home.
The issue now we will focus on is the economy. Alicia.
Gentlemen, right here where we are in Charleston, in our own backyard, the South Carolina Ports Authority supports 1 in 9 jobs. 1 in 9, that's statewide. The Hugh K. Leatherman Terminal in North Charleston suspended operations Saturday, citing reduced volume and an uncertain trade forecast. Mr. Norman, we're going to start with you. Is the uncertain trade forecast due in part to tariffs imposed by President Trump? You have 60 seconds.
No, I don't think it's a surprise that the president wanted to make fair trade. Why is it fair for other countries to charge tariffs on our products? It's reciprocal trade, which makes sense. You know, it's caused some problems, but look at the money that it's generating. Look at the industries that's now coming to America that under the Biden administration was non-existent. We're bringing back manufacturing. We're bringing back industries, quality industries that will do business with the Ports Authority. And South Carolina's on the cusp of growth that we've got to manage, but it's got to be quality growth. So the economy here is first and foremost. The industries here that we'll attract is first and foremost. Tariffs, I think the president has done a good job of using that as leverage to aid America and make it fair trade. And I think he's 100% right, and he's balanced it with trade as he's reduced some and he's raised some. But fair trade is what we want.
Mr. Lynch, same question for you. Are Trump tariffs responsible for problems at South Carolina ports? You have 60 seconds.
Yes. In our business of appliances and furniture, for over 74 years, we've seen the lack of tariffs causing American manufacture to be taken over. It's a national security threat. We saw those problems during COVID. We don't make anything anymore. And, you know, Mr. Norman, I'm going to bring that up about tariffs in this situation right here because you voted against Trump's tariffs on China solar companies. And you advocated for SilFab to come into your backyard and advocated for tax breaks for them, and it's poisoning the ground, the water, the schools that are there. That there's been reports of 19 911 calls with people leaving that factory vomiting up blood. So are we America first or not? You know, the problem we have are these career politicians that are for bringing in factories from out of this country, taking over Americans' jobs, and, you know, kicking out from under the legs of American manufacturing to manufacture solar panels here at home.
Mr. Norman, I'm going to give you a chance to rebut.
It's silly season
you
again.
have 15 seconds.
It's silly season with what you're saying. SilFab was supported by the governor. They were supported by the lieutenant governor. They took over a vacant building. So you were nowhere to be seen when we were having the debate, nor did you come when we had the open discussion. No, I want quality jobs here. As a businessman, we will promote good-paying jobs in South Carolina, and we'll continue to do that. And we're at the cusp of a new growth in this state like we've never seen before.
Mr. Sanford, I'm going to ask you the same
that
question. Mr. Lynch, you'll have a chance to be able to address that in the next question. For now, Mr. Sanford, let me ask you the same question. Are Trump tariffs in part responsible for the Leatherman Terminal suspending operations? You have 60 seconds.
I would say in part. I think we need to be very judicious in the use of tariffs, and particularly changing those tariffs, because what business responds to is some measure of stability as to what's going to come next as they contemplate investment or other practices. I would applaud the president in what he's tried to get at, which is to say, how do we level the playing field? I applaud that sentiment. But we got to be very careful in a state like South Carolina. We have more foreign direct investment in this state than any other state domestically in the United States. So when you think about Michelin and BMW and Volvo and go down the list of international companies here, we need to be careful, because if you look in the wake of the Smoot-Hawley tariffs, we went from an average of about 40% across-the-board tariffs to slowly, because of American leadership, bringing that down somewhere between 3 and 8%, in some cases 2%. And that has been a giant rebate, if you will, to consumers around the world, and particularly in this country. And it's been a boon in terms of manufacturing might, because if you look at per capita income in our country versus others, we stand out.
Mr. Fry, I'm going to ask you the same question. Are Trump tariffs impacting South Carolina ports? You have 60 seconds.
I think there are greater things that are impacting the port. And I think when we're talking about tariffs, I think it's important to remember that President Trump uses them, one, for a political purpose, to drive a policy that puts America first, and two, it's to recalibrate the United States on an equal playing field. You know, if you look at rice, for example, rice, a grain of American rice going to a country like India, is tariffed at 700%. Our rice going to there, but their rice coming to this country is less than 5%. That doesn't make any sense. For the farmers that are using our ports to export their goods, cattle is another example, this is a huge economic disincentive for American farmers. And so what the One Big Beautiful Bill has done, and what a lot of these policies are designed to do, is to reshore American jobs, because at President Trump's heart and mind is the American worker. Making sure that their families can put food on the table, and that we have this resurgence of American manufacturing.
Gentlemen, we now turn to the topic of Social Security. Carolyn.
Candidates, approximately 1 in every 5 South Carolinians receive Social Security benefits, but funds in this program could run out within the next 10 years. Some options to help the program include raising the retirement age, updating the cost of living adjustment, targeting benefit cuts to higher earners, and lifting the Social Security tax cap. Mr. Lynch, do you support any of these initiatives, or do you have a different plan? You have 60 seconds.
Yes. I want to address the SilFab issue again. You know, I was with the organization called Move SilFab last week.
Mr. Lynch, you will have an opportunity to do that in just a moment, but if you could please just answer this question, and perhaps we'll have an opportunity to do that. Thank you very much for that.
Yes, I'm not for moving the age out. Everybody's worked their whole life. Why is Social Security running out? We need to answer those questions first and see why we're allowing it to run out. I know during the Obama administration, they talked about seizing Social Security and 401ks. We can't allow our government that works for the citizens to tell us what they're going to do with our money that we've paid into all of our lives. We're going to protect Social Security and protect the investment that people have made. You know, the SILFAB issue, again, is crazy. When I met with them, their organization called Move SILFAB, this isn't silly and foolish stuff we're talking about. We're talking about people's lives that we're protecting, and we're fighting for life in this country, and we got to have politicians that do their job to protect America.
Mr. Lynch, thank you for your response. Mr. Sanford, the same question for you. How would you stabilize Social Security? Some of the initiatives already suggested raising the retirement age, targeting benefit cuts to higher earners, and lifting the Social Security tax cap. You have 60 seconds.
What's amazing to me, Carolyn, is that a young person today is more likely to believe in UFOs than to believe they get the full value of their Social Security taxes that they paid in over the years. That is a frightening reality, but that is reality. And so, as you may also remember, years ago, I actually went up and down retirement homes along the coast of South Carolina talking about the idea of a personal savings account, a personal account that you own and control, because in 1960, there was a Supreme Court decision that said, Fleming versus Nestor, that said none of us have any legal claim whatsoever to our own Social Security money that we sent to Washington. And we operate on what's called a unified budget in Washington, which means every dollar that goes up to Washington immediately goes back out the door. And what's in the Social Security Trust Fund right now are simple IOUs that represent the future taxing authority of the United States government. So I think you have to transition from where we are to a system that allows individual ownership. This also means that if somebody dies early, you know, Jesse Jackson said years ago that capitalism without capital is just ism. You've got to have that flow through so that people can retain what they might not be able to use.
Thank you for your response, Mr. Sanford. Mr. Fry, the question for you, what changes would you make to stabilize Social Security? You have 60 seconds.
I think we need to assess the problem here for a moment. That somebody like my son, James, who's 9 years old, I think it was mentioned earlier, is he going to grow up in a country that no longer has this? Fortunately, I think with the Trump administration, we have a backstop for the next generation. With these Trump accounts, I think this is a huge step forward for a personal account that follows the child. I think that's a big step. But for our seniors at home, and this state has a lot of them, I want to reassure you that it's very important that we protect in every which way possible the work that you put in your entire life, and that we owe it to our seniors to make sure that we protect this program and enhance it. One of the things, I think the easiest thing to look at here is the fraud and mismanagement within the program itself. For instance, we know that there are over, and these are all the states that we know about, there are over 100,000 Social Security numbers and benefits going to deceased people. That's a start on this program. If we're going to stretch out this and make sure that this program survives the test of time, we have to start and root out the fraud.
Mr. Norman, how would you address Social Security stability? You have 60 seconds.
Well, first of all, you know, the fact is that we're electing somebody for 6 years. By all accounts, Social Security will be bankrupt by 2032, 2033, some sooner with everything that's been added on the rolls. Folks, we got to deal with it now. That's why you need a businessman like myself who understands. You put proposals together. Look, what's happening in Congress and the Senate on steroids, you don't hear any plan that's being put out there, like letting you spend your own money, giving it back. The American people are smarter than politicians think we are. The biggest fraud is they're using our money. As Mark said, we've got notes in the bank. They've confiscated all of it and are spending it on things it shouldn't be spent on. We've got to come up with giving it back to them. We got to look at the taxation, put a plan together. But when the media demagogues everything, we can't be scared about putting a solvent plan. It can't go the way it's continuing to go. We've got to stop it and put something on the table, and I will do that.
Candidates, we are now moving to the issue of the filibuster. Alicia.
Thanks, Carolyn. And we want to be able to have a quick question here about the filibuster. So President Trump has called to end it, which would allow a simple majority to pass legislation. We'd like a show of hands, and then we will allow you to explain your answer. So by raising your hand right now, do you support eliminating the Senate filibuster? All hands raised. Okay, well, Mr. Sanford, we're going to start with you. You raised your hand. You have 30 seconds.
I believe in a constitutional construct for the way that the Congress works. And if you look at the filibuster, it's a relatively modern invention. It actually came about in 1975. And so I go back to a real filibuster, as Strom Thurmond did years ago. You want a filibuster? You stand there as long as you want. But you can't have a fake filibuster, which is what we have right now. You go, you say, I'm going to threaten a filibuster. You go out, you're gone for a couple days. Let's go to a dinner. Let's go to a lunch. Let's go to the movies. And it's, quote, still a filibuster. That's not a filibuster. We need to go back to what the Founding Fathers proposed in this front.
Mr. Fry, you raised your hand. You have 30 seconds.
People are very frustrated with Washington, D.C. right now. And why is that? It's because Washington, D.C. is broken. It's not responsive to the needs of the people. When we think about where we are economically and the pinch that people feel in their pocketbooks, how are they going to afford gas? How are they going to put groceries on the table? How are we going to define the next generation of energy? It's because of the Senate and the broken rules that they have, the archaic rules. We need to shake up the Senate. We need to change this way and make sure that this Senate is more responsive. Put a fighter in the United States Senate, somebody who's ready, who's battle-tested and ready to fight for you, because this moment is very important.
Mr. Norman, you raised your hand. You have 30 seconds.
Well, I'm tired of hearing we don't have the votes to end the filibuster. We don't have the votes. When have you tried? Make them stand up. Let them not take a nap and sit there all night, as others have done in past years. That's not happening. And the thing about it is stopping good legislation. The Senate is where the good bills go to die. And why not try this? If the Democrats ever get control, they're going to do away with it anyway and change the landscape of this country like we've never seen before. That's why I'm in favor of it. Try it. Make them stay up all night. Let's see what happens.
Mr. Lynch, you raised your hand. You have 30 seconds.
Absolutely, I raised my hand. That's why I'm running. I'm tired of the games that we're watching as citizens in this country where we're not doing the business for the people. A filibuster is just a shell game. It's a stall tactic. We can't do that in our business. We can't close our business for 45 days. We have to get to the facts, analyze them, and make a decision. We've got to keep the people in Congress accountable. The problem here is the politicians that are in office now not doing anything about it. I've talked about this for months in this campaign running against Lindsey Graham, and I won't put up with it. We'll nuke the filibuster and do business where the people can see how we vote.
Mr.
Votes
Lynch,
have to be held accountable.
Your time has expired. Thank you. Well, let's talk about now the responsibilities of the U.S. Senator, the job you are all vying for right now. So in the next 2 years, President Trump may have the opportunity to appoint another Supreme Court justice. Again, we're going to start with you, Mr. Sanford. What is the one question you want answered by the nominee? You have 60 seconds.
Are you a traditionalist with regard to looking at the Constitution? A lot of people take a very liberal interpretation of what the Constitution says or doesn't says. I think I'd be rather strict in the view of, are you adhering to the Constitution or not?
Mr. Fry, what is the one question you want answered by the Supreme Court nominee? You have 60 seconds.
I think it's important. Look, the Supreme Court defines a lot about what happens in this country. We've had battles over the years. And so for any nominee, who do you want in the fight defending President Trump's nominee? We go back to one of Lindsey Graham's hallmarks as a United States Senator. And we all remember the Kavanaugh hearing, that Kavanaugh was not, he was looking like he was going to go away and that he wasn't going to survive this fight. And it was Lindsey Graham who launched really a comeback tour for Justice Kavanaugh. You need somebody who is battle-tested, who understands the judiciary. Strict constructionism, how they interpret the Constitution, is critically important. And so it's really, as we look at this, as we look at who might that person be, do they interpret the Constitution as the founders intended? And having a senator in there to battle for them, for the president, is critically important.
Mr. Norman, I'm going to ask you the same question. What is the one question that you want answered by the Supreme Court nominee? You have 60 seconds.
Are you a strict constitutionalist? Will you abide by the Constitution? Or are you going to be a politician in a robe? That's what the Democrats have put up. That's why the Democrats are talking about expanding the Supreme Court and everything else. What I will do as a senator, we've got 107 judges that are waiting to be confirmed. All the Senate has to do is call for a 10-day recess. They won't do it. They're causing harm for this country. So it's not just the Supreme Court. It's 107 judges they're holding up. Let the president make a recess appointment. That's fair to the public. That's not fair to have that many. And that's the hatred that they have for this president. And it's what the American people need to know by electing Democrats. I'm not at odds with Republicans. We've got to replace the Democrats who have gone off the rails with their socialistic ideas. We can't abide by it.
Mr. Lynch, I'm going to ask you the same question. What is the one question you want answered by the Supreme Court nominee? You have 60 seconds.
Yes. My main question is, does the judge love Jesus? When our country was founded, it was based on biblical values. We came here to worship the one true God. Our laws have to equal God's laws. So I got to know where this judge is on his biblical values. The Constitution was written from that to protect our God-given, unalienable rights. And Russell, you know, that's good to talk about Kavanaugh, but all the other judges Lindsey picked have blocked all of President Trump's agenda, like Judge Sotomayor, Kagan, Judge Herson blocked Trump's executive order when he first got back into office again to end child mutilation surgeries, to stop the transgender surgeries of our children. And Judge Herson blocked that. And Lindsey was one of the several Republicans that voted for Judge Herson. And he picked all the judges that Obama and Biden wanted, and we're dealing with the consequences of that still.
Candidates, we now want to turn to the topic of foreign policy. Carolyn.
Candidates, South Carolina has benefited from millions of dollars in Chinese investments, but the People's Republic of China is considered one of the United States' strategic adversaries. Mr. Fry, should hostile foreign governments be allowed to purchase things such as farmland, businesses, or strategic assets in the United States? You have 60 seconds.
Absolutely not. The CCP, the Chinese Communist Party, is one of the worst offenders against the United States. They do not have your best interests. And they come here and they invest money, and it's under the guise of trade or whatever it may be. But we know that they are stealing our technology. We know that they are spying. Look, I live in Surfside Beach, my hometown of Surfside Beach, where a Chinese spy balloon was just taken down over our shores. The threat from the Chinese Communist Party is real. We have to confront that challenge, and that means stopping their farmland investments that are near our military installations, or stopping them, period, in the United States. We can trade, we can do things from afar, but what people are really concerned about is what happens next. We know that they're a bad actor. We know that they manipulate their currency. We know that they suppress and try to eliminate jobs in the United States, and we know that they're a direct threat to our military security. We have to confront this challenge. They are the biggest geopolitical challenge that we face.
Mr. Norman, we'd like to hear from you. Do you believe that foreign adversaries should be allowed to buy assets in the United States? You have 60 seconds. Of
course not. It's ludicrous. They're buying land here in Columbia, South Carolina, and other places across from our military. You got to stop that. When I'm senator, I will make it so hard for them to, if we don't buy it back in South Carolina, we're going to make it so hard to develop that they can't do it. But it's other things. Look at TikTok. Would they allow a TikTok in China? No. What about the balloons that they China put all over this America? It was near a utility installation in York County. Would they allow us to fly balloons over China? No. And the Biden administration did nothing. But you provide, as a senator, provide a loud voice to condemn that. You don't allow China to not only buy land, but look at what they're doing on buying our hog producers. The money is with child labor. So they're our adversary. We have to treat them like an enemy. They are a huge threat to this country, and we need to recognize that and put politicians that will call them out and stop it.
Mr. Lynch, we'd like to hear from you. What is your position on foreign adversaries buying assets in the United States? You have 60 seconds.
Yeah, America's not for sale, and our children are not for sale. Our farmland's not for sale. It's a national security threat that we can't grow our own food or have our own cattle. Again, we've seen all that during 2020, how vulnerable we are. China makes our pharmaceuticals. That's not a safe thing. But, you know, America First foreign policy doesn't do business with enemies that have declared war against America. China has declared war. I will cease all foreign aid and diplomatic relations with any country that's declared war on America. And they're doing it by bringing fentanyl in through Mexico. China and Mexico are cooperatively working together. They've killed over 70,000 Americans on average a year. We lost 58,000 American soldiers during the Vietnam War. They've murdered over 400,000 with fentanyl. America needs to wake up. This is a problem that's happening because we have the wrong people in office. I won't put up with that.
Mr. Sanford, we would like to hear from you. Do you believe that foreign adversaries should be allowed to buy assets in the United States? You have 60 seconds.
Let me say declaratively up front that I think China is a major competitor and a real strategic threat. I'm worried about what they're doing in the South China Sea. If you look at what they're doing in Mischief Reef and the Spratly Islands, it's really, really concerning given the amount of trade that goes through that channel of water. So I think that they are a trouble, but I think we got to be real here. I mean, Volvo is owned by China. And are we saying we're going to get rid of Volvo? I mean, I think the real practical question is, if somebody buys something, I'm for as much foreign direct investment because direct investment leverages human capital as possible. The question is, can they drag it out of here? If you got a plant here in Berkeley or Dorchester County that you can't drag out, I think we need to look at it very carefully because the real issue is this. There's a lot of talk about farmland or timberland or other things, but we're not talking about the fact that we're a major borrower from China. I think that's the bigger threat to American security. In fact, Admiral Mike Mullen, when once asked what's the biggest threat to American security, answered the national debt. And if we don't address that problem, we have a real problem with China.
Thank you for your response. And now, candidates, we move to the topic of the war with Iran. Alicia.
Thank you, Carolyn. We are entering the 6-month mark of the conflict with Iran. And the president says that we are very close to a peace deal. Mr. Norman, I'm going to start with you. In your opinion, can the war with Iran end if Iran maintains some degree of a nuclear program and retains some control over the Strait of Hormuz? You have 60 seconds.
Well, first of all, Iran's been at war with America for 44 years. It's killed our servicemen for that number of years. The president's done the right thing to take them out of commission where they can make a nuclear weapon. Biden paid bribe money to the tune of, Obama paid bribe money to the tune of billions. Biden was basically numb to it and let it go. The president did the right thing to take them out by the air. Now, I trust his generals, Raising King, Jack Keane, and others are giving him good advice. He's destroyed most of their ability to what they're doing. They've got a group of madmen that are the last remnant of making Iran what they want to do, which is destroy America. And he stopped that. But we need to take them all out. Boots on the ground, I don't think America is willing to go now. But I think he's done a tremendous job to destroy him, and he'll continue to. And I think at the end of the day, he would totally destroy him.
Mr. Lynch, I'm going to ask you the same question. Can the war end if Iran maintains some degree of nuclear program and retains some control over the Strait of Hormuz? You have 60 seconds.
I agree with our Commander-in-Chief, President Trump. Iran cannot have access to a nuclear weapon. I believe we've seen that, and they can't have it. That's why we're there. But it's time to bring our troops home now and protect our men and women and work on the affordability issues that the gas prices and everything our people are dealing with at home. You know, and we have a war right here at home we have to focus on. Islamville has been in your backyard, Ralph, in York County for 43 years. Sheikh Ali Bulgaric is a head of the Muslim Association in America. That's a known terrorist organization. That was one of the first Islamic training camps in America out of 132. I've been dealing with this since 2014. I brought it up to you at an event about 4 years ago, and nothing's been done about it. And people are concerned about the terrorists here inside our walls. What are we doing about that? It's time to get to business and shut these people down.
Mr. Norman, because Mr. Lynch mentioned the fact that you have done nothing about it, I'm going to give you 15 seconds to rebut.
Look, Sharia law is one of the biggest threats we have. We have got to make it public now. They quietly went into the different communities, not just in York County. They tried to build one recently in Lancaster. You've got to get the people involved to stop any new construction. And the sheriff has been active on monitoring what they have and what was built years ago.
Mr. Sanford, I'm going to ask you the original question. Can the war end if Iran retains some degree of a nuclear program and partial control of the Strait of Hormuz? You have 60 seconds.
I just say I agree with the president in terms of his focus on a non-nuclearized Iran. I very much agree with him in saying we're not going to allow a sponsor of terrorism to exist in that part of the world. So I agree with the sentiment, but I think there's a real process question that I frankly disagree with two of my congressional colleagues on this very point. I believe that the Constitution is absolutely clear that only Congress can authorize war. And there's a process question. I fought against this with the Clinton administration. I fought against it again with the Obama administration. You have undeclared war that drags on and on and on. And there's a real value to what the founding fathers set up in having folks say, is that a good idea? I mean, the Bay of Pigs happened in the Kennedy administration. There were very bright people, but it was groupthink. There wasn't a diversity of different opinions. Say, is that a really good, hey, let's think that through. What's our exit strategy? And so I just think that we have to go back to the basics here. It's personal for me for this reason. When I was governor, I tried to go to every funeral of every serviceman or servicewoman that was killed in the operations in the Middle East. And I saw firsthand how real this is. Body bags do not go back to Washington, D.C. They go to congressional districts and states across this country.
Mr. Fry, I'm going to ask you the same question. Can the war end if Iran maintains some degree of a nuclear program and partial control of the Strait of Hormuz? You have 60 seconds.
Well, I think that Iran having a nuclear weapon is a non-starter. I mean, imagine the calamity that we would have on our hands economically, militarily, if the world's largest sponsor of terror had access to that type of power. I think the neighbors, the Arab neighbors, certainly Israel and the West and the United States, all collectively fear that. Because for 40 years, they have targeted commercial vessels. They've targeted civilians, targeted our people. They have exported terror throughout the world. So Iran having access to any capability to create a nuclear weapon is a non-starter. I think the president has been very clear on that. The Strait of Hormuz has never been governed by Iran. It's an international body of water. So them controlling it in any degree doesn't make a lot of sense to me. What we have to think about is resolving this conflict. We can do that without putting boots on the ground. Look, my brother served overseas. I have friends that lost their lives overseas. But we have such a great, capable military and a commander-in-chief that understands peace through strength that we can get this done.
Candidates, we now want to turn to the topic on immigration. Carolyn.
Candidates, South Carolina mandates employers use the E-Verify program. Now, this is a program, it's free, it's a web-based federal system that allows employers to confirm employees are legally authorized to work at private companies in this country, but not every state uses E-Verify. Mr. Lynch, we begin with you. Should there be a federal law requiring all states to use E-Verify in the hiring process at private companies? You have 60 seconds.
We've got to do something, because we have a horrible problem with immigration in this country, and we have people still fighting against mass deportations. Our culture's at risk. America's at risk. This is a national security threat with what's happening in our country. We've got to work on American first foreign policies. So, we don't have any illegal aliens at our company. We don't pay people under the table. We have to follow the laws. And whatever we got to do that can help, I'd have to analyze that and see where the holes are in E-Verify before I could give you a solid answer on if that's a good product or not. I don't answer questions that quick. If I don't know what I'm talking about, I'll know the facts. But I know we have to hire Americans first. and bring American manufacturing back to America and not support Chinese manufacturers and deal with the real national security threats. This is our country. We had men and women that fought and bled and died for this great experiment called America, and that's why it's serious to me to put a real true senator that'll fight for America values.
Mr. Sanford, should E-Verify be mandatory in all states in hiring at private companies? You have 60 seconds.
I think it's instructive to think about who got E-Verify started in South Carolina. And that was during our administration in the governorship, because at that time there was a lot of consternation. Do you want to do it? Do you not want to do it? Some level of pushback from some number of employers. But our point was, look, I was hired to enforce the law. And the law says you can't hire an illegal, therefore I'm going to use every tool within my toolkit to make sure that that's the case. So we actually began it here in South Carolina, and you really have a supply and a demand issue. I applaud what the president's trying to do on the supply side. You know, in the history of man, no country's been able to maintain sovereignty without maintaining a sovereign border. So I admire what he's doing there. But you also have the demand side of the equation, which is what E-Verify gets to. And so I think it does make sense, because otherwise we're sort of kidding ourselves. Oh, well, we'll look the other way while you hire illegals. Either you have the law and you want to adhere to it, or you don't.
Mr. Norman, should there be a federal law requiring all states to use mandatory E-Verify?
Absolutely, and you know, that's just the gateway to start with. I think you ought to expand it from there. The 287G program, which gives law enforcement, which the law enforcement we've talked to, they want that power. If they arrest them, if they have a crime in progress, arrest somebody, they're illegal, they go to jail. End of story. It's consequences. The other thing, sanctuary cities. To have cities that take tax dollars that the American people pay and not cooperate with the police, cut their funding. That's the type of leadership that I will provide. That's not hard for me to do. And sanctuary cities are an abomination to this country. They should not be allowed to exist. If they're going to take that stance, let's see how they can raise their own dollars to fund their program for that municipality, that city.
And Mr. Fry, finally, pardon me, should the federal government require all states to use E-Verify? You have 60 seconds to respond.
Well, I think so. I mean, look, think about how many people have been displaced out of their job because an illegal immigrant took their job, because an employer wasn't checking the system. Think about how many people have seen an increase in their rent because of the 20 million people that Joe Biden imported into this country, the loopholes that they exploited. And so you have states that do this correctly. They want to be good stewards. They want to be good actors. They want to do the right thing and follow the law. But you have states that absolutely do not. On E-Verify, on sanctuary cities, what this has created is an economic nightmare for the American worker and the American family. And so you have to bring this parity on task. You have to make sure that our states are working together with the federal government to make sure that we don't have these illegals working in our society.
All right, Alicia?
Thank you, Carolyn. Well, we want to pause right now and remind our viewers that we know you want to hear more from these candidates, and you can right after this debate for our post-debate show. All you have to do is scan the QR code that you see right there on your screen for you to watch. Right now, we're going to turn to the topic, gentlemen, on artificial intelligence.
Candidates, artificial intelligence is becoming more common in our everyday lives. We are definitely affected by this. The power is uncharted territory. We know of at least 2 artificial intelligence programs that recently went rogue and attacked businesses on their own. So we begin with you, Mr. Fry. Should the federal government put guardrails in place for AI programs? You have 60 seconds.
Absolutely. Absolutely, they should. President Trump has issued, I say, a starting point in a framework on what this would look like. I think it's important for the next generation. Look, AI is going to be controlled by the West, or it's going to be controlled by China. I think we have to recognize that threat. But it doesn't mean that we sacrifice our own privacy. It doesn't mean that we subject our kids to the dangers of AI. I think about Brandon Guffey, and the tragic loss of life that his son faced. He's in the State House of Representatives and has endorsed me because I understand how this should go, that you've got to have some guardrails in place on AI from a framework perspective to make sure that this doesn't happen. And chief among these two is that you have to make sure that it's not displacing the American worker. I think the real question, too, is AI. We talk about data centers. We had an earth-shattering moment last night where one of the candidates who's not on stage said that she wanted unfettered data centers in the state of South Carolina without local control, without local buy-in. That's unacceptable.
The question comes to you at this time, Mr. Norman. Should the federal government put regulations or guardrails in place for artificial intelligence? You have 60 seconds.
Yeah, but we got to realize the federal government is us. It's the American people. We've got to make sure that what's coming down from the federal government makes sense. How do you do that? You get with your cybersecurity experts, your FBI, and make sure that they have buy-in and that they are putting the guardrails and telling the federal government what makes sense if we're going to pass a law. That's what's got this country in trouble now is mass regulations that don't make sense. It's scary with AI. When our grandchildren can own a phone, a person that talks just like the grandparents or the parents, that's scary. And it's a problem that is with us, and we've got to deal with it. So, yeah, absolutely. But the federal government needs direction from the local communities, the local experts, law enforcement. They face this daily, and we need to get their buy-in and say, what can we do to fix it? And this is just, it's many other things we need to get buy-in to. But the federal government needs to take directive from we the people.
Mr. Lynch, should the federal government put guardrails in place for the use of artificial intelligence? You have 60 seconds.
Yes. We need politicians that understand guardrails. You know, data centers are a threat to our neighborhoods. It's a noise pollution situation. It's devaluing our homes. It's putting a strain on the water levels in our communities. It's going to increase the electric grid, and the people are going to be paying for it. I'm not for that. We need politicians that will be good stewards over the people's money, and we've got to bust up the big, massive organizations and corporations like OpenAI that's controlling the money and deciding what they're going to do. Our citizens are tired. I've driven around the state for 15 months running for this seat, and they're all upset that they wake up and see all the trees bulldozed over hundreds of acres, and there's a data center there. They never had any input on it. And the other big thing nobody else is talking about, is flock cameras that are invading our privacy, taking a snapshot of our license plate on the cars and drilling down into all our private information, and that's another national security threat that I won't put up with. We will end flock cameras.
Mr. Sanford, do you believe the federal government should put regulations or guardrails in place for AI programs? You have 60 seconds.
Yeah, and I believe that there's a bifurcated regulatory response. At the national level, this is a strategic decision. We can't let China outpace us with regard to AI, and we cannot afford a patchwork of 50 different regulatory bodies as we approach something as significantly important strategically as AI. That's at the top level in terms of regulatory body. But I believe in federalism, and I think that DeSantis got it right in Florida when they talked about local control. That you do not have a Washington entity deciding where AI is going to go here in South Carolina. So if you think about what happened down in Colleton County, they're at the headwaters of the Ace Basin, areas that I've hunted and fished all my life. You had AI proposing to come in and put a data center there. People went nuts, and rightfully so. So I think you ought to have local control in terms of the actual build-out of AI in data centers, but a regulatory body that looks at guardrails and rather than 50 different networks in terms of regulatory body itself.
Candidates, we are now moving to a couple of quick questions here, and we are hoping for short answers from each of you. Mr. Lynch, we begin with you. You will have 30 seconds for these answers. If elected, would you vote John Thune to remain the Senate Majority Leader? Again, you have 30 seconds.
Absolutely not. He's shown he's doing everything he can to block the SAVE Act. And I talked about this months ago. In the Senate, somebody needed to take lead, form a committee internally, and make a decision to vote to move him out of his position so we can get to the business of America.
And again, we are looking for answers that are 30 seconds here. The question again is, Mr. Sanford, if elected, would you vote for John Thune to remain the Senate Majority Leader? You have 30 seconds.
The problem he has is he's short Republican votes, and he's a scapegoat right now. I don't think that that's fair. I'd want to learn a little bit more about him. I know him to be a good man, so I would not at this point.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Fry, would you vote for John Thune to remain Senate Majority Leader? You have 30 seconds.
I think at any time that somebody runs for leadership, it's a job interview. And so certainly there's been successes and there's been failures. There's still time on the clock to see how that looks. And I think ultimately in the next Congress is who is going to best drive the president's agenda. That's what I'm looking for in any majority leader.
And finally, Mr. Norman, the question to you, would you vote for John Thune to remain Senate Majority Leader? You have 30 seconds.
Well, here's what I would do with John Thune. I would sit down with him when I get in the Senate and say, Mr. Thune, here's the problem I have with why you're not taking up the Save America Act to verify elections. If you're not going to do that, I'm going to work hard to secure the votes to replace you. And you tell them what you will do and then be upfront with them. That's how you do in the business arena. That's what I will do with him. He started out a good man. He's lacking a little bit of courage, which a lot of them are. And you got to remember, who's going to replace him? Who can get the votes? I will work to get that conservative to replace him if he won't come around.
All right. Alicia.
Candidates, we're going to stay with our quick questions here. So we all know it's been a whirlwind couple of weeks for many of you. Many of you here in front of me have lost a dear friend in the late Senator Lindsey Graham. We didn't think we'd be here. We didn't think we'd be here on this stage tonight, but we are. So this one final question I have for you. If you do not win, do you promise to support your nominee? It's a quick answer. Mr. Sanford, we're going to start with you.
I do.
Mr. Fry?
Absolutely.
Mr. Norman?
Absolutely. All these guys are better than the best Democrat. They're socialist. Yes, I would easily do that.
Mr. Lynch?
Absolutely. As a Republican, we have to have unity in the party.
All right. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your answers. Carolyn?
That's right. Candidates, again, we thank you for participating in this debate tonight. Each of you has time for a closing statement, another opportunity to speak with voters and potential voters.
And we did a separate card draw for closing. Mr. Lynch, we're going to start with you for your first closing statement. You have 30 seconds.
Yes. I started this race. I ran and filed back in February of 25. We're here to finish it. I'm not just jumping in. When we're talking about security and the border and E-Verify and 287G, having to talk about these things is failure of what's causing these issues at the root. We don't have good border security, and we're letting people get through, and we're trying to clean it up at the end when they're applying for a job. It's too late at that time. I'm a businessman. I know how to attack things that are causing issues on the front end so we don't manage at the back end. And that's what I'll do at the U.S. Senate. This isn't a foolish, silly event. This is serious. It's very serious to me what's happening to this country. And that's why I threw my name in the hat to run, because I was called by God and the people of South Carolina. I'm the outsider. I'm a businessman. The career politicians that are here haven't done anything with these issues, and I will.
Your time has expired. Mr. Sanford, you have 30 seconds.
Yeah, I would just say at the end of the day, this race comes down to a lot more than numbers. It comes down to affordability that we've talked about tonight. It comes down to the American dream and whether or not our children and grandchildren will be able to afford it. And it comes down ultimately to results, and that's what I think I bring uniquely. If you look at the results when I was governor and us turning around spending, I've seen it happen before. I saw it happen when I was in Congress. 3 of the 50 years that the budget tax have been balanced, I happened to be there. I've seen it. It can be done, and I would ask for your help in allowing me to represent you in the United States Senate, because, again, at the end of the day, this is about the affordability that we struggle with, the numbers that are keeping us from getting there.
Mr. Fry, your closing statement. You have 30 seconds.
Right now, you at home, all of South Carolina, are feeling the pinch. You're feeling the pinch at the gas pump. You're feeling the pinch at the grocery store. You're feeling the pinch when you want to buy your first home or save for your child's education. I know what that feels like because I've lived it. I am not from wealth. I didn't inherit anything. And so you want somebody in your corner. You want somebody to fight for you. I am that fighter. President Trump needs allies in the Senate to fight for you every single day, to tackle these tough issues, and not just vote the right way. Make sure that you deliver conservative results. It's important for the next generation. I'm Russell Fry, and I humbly ask for your vote on August the 11th.
Mr. Norman, you have 30 seconds.
You know, on August 11th, we're going to elect somebody to be the United States Senator for 6 years. If you were hiring a doctor to operate on you for 6 years, or a pilot to fly your plane for 6 years, you'd want to know everything about him. I'm the only one on this stage where my resume is my record by any means, and this is where it separates me from anybody on this stage. I've gotten the conservative high marks from every agency. That's why I have the people that I do, Senator Scott and Senator Lee, who are backing me. All that to say is I'm proud of it, and I will take that to the United States Senate, and we'll try to get this country back on track. We've got a spiritual warfare going. Now it's good against evil, and I'll be glad to lead that charge. I ask for your vote on August 11th.
Thank you, candidates, for all your answers tonight. Thank you for watching. Remember, we have our post-show debate after this. We want you to stay with us. And also remember, early voting begins tomorrow, August the 5th, and runs through Friday, August the 7th. You can vote at your designated early voting location Monday through Friday from 8:30 in the morning to 5 in the evening. Carolyn.
Again, candidates, thank you very much, and thank you for your team and your families for being a part of this and for supporting your campaigns. We also want to remind everyone that the election is set for 1 week from today, August 11th. Remember, many polling locations have changed, so you want to make sure that you double check your locations to make sure that you are the right place. They make it easy for you. Go to scvotes.gov once again to check your polling location. Again, we invite you to stay with us for our post-debate show. It's coming up in just a couple of minutes on our WCBD TV streaming platform. Again, candidates, thank you very much for your time, for your participation in this very important process. And to our viewers and readers and listeners, thank you for being a part of this as well. Thank you and good night.